Hi guys, Angelo Lambropoulos, Director of Lambros Realty, and thank you for tuning in. Today I'm going to share with you the February 2019 Cherrybrook property market update. So it's that time of month again, so looking forward to it actually. So in saying that, so as far as February is concerned and where the Cherrybrook property market sits at present, now there's been 7 registered sales. Okay, with the median sitting at 1.425, with the highest sale price recorded this month being 1.88 million, right? Now, compare it to February last year, there were 17 registered sales, so as you can see, the market is very slow moving, with the median sitting at 1.48. Now, however, the highest registered sale was 1.73. Now, as you can see, indicative of a market that's not crashing in any shape or form. And statistically speaking, it clearly goes to show people can afford to hold off, and Cherrybrook is that sort of suburb. So that is the way it's playing out at the moment. Now, that being said, however, statistically, the market has dropped 15% since July 2017, right? And we won't go into details. I've done plenty of videos on that before, just reporting it for what it is at the moment. And this is where I believe Cherrybrook's at its point of equilibrium, right? At its point of balance or near its point of balance. Give or take, it may correct another 2, 3, 5, whatever it may be. But generally speaking, I'm of the belief it's at its equilibrium. And you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, well, why do I say that? All right, well, simple. Cherrybrook's an established suburb, right, with people in no real desperation of needing to sell. Majority are looking to sell in order to downsize. And as we know, generally speaking, downturn markets aren't often in favor of downsizes. Now, look, there's ways around that, yes, but I'm just talking generally. Now, that being said, they're addressed with 2 options. If they don't get the price the market should be paying, right, what they'll end up doing is either withdrawing the property from sale completely and waiting it out and just stay in their property and bite the bullet. I mean, they would much rather have a roof over their head as opposed to putting themselves in financial hardship, or they will look at leasing and obviously go elsewhere and trial their life in the area they're looking at buying, and when the time comes, they will then look at obviously selling or returning back to their property if it doesn't work out. So it's a suburb where there's no urgency to sell, okay? So I know there's this whole, buyers are coming in and they're having problems with the bank, the lending restrictions, and look, there's no way around that, okay? And I think my advice to you, if you're a buyer with lending restrictions and you can only purchase 1.1 and there's homes there that are worth 1.4, your lending restrictions or your borrowing capacity, and respectfully speaking, do not represent the suburb. You should be looking at other suburbs, okay? If a miracle happens and it does end up being at that price point, well then revisit it, but otherwise you're looking in the wrong suburb, right? Unfortunately, the market isn't in Cherrybrook. It doesn't appear to be what's happening at the moment. It's not, people aren't buying into, okay, these are the lending restrictions, we have to sell at that price. They don't need to, right? And my advice to those of you that are listed out there and have been so for days, well, if you're not willing to meet the market at a fair price, because there are people offering fair price that are being declined, don't waste your time selling either, right? So it works both ways. Now, the other thing I put forward to buyers as well, and what I'm noticing on the ground, a lot of you are sitting there thinking, okay, well, I'm looking and I'm waiting for the market to further correct to capitalize on the best time to move in. Now, let me put it to you this way. Sellers were faced with a different scenario back in the boom period where they were waiting for the peak, right? They were waiting at the very peak of the market so they could come in and sell at the very top and maximize their profit. Now, what ends up happening is they miss that cycle completely and then they ride the downward spiral, right? So the key is you're never going to find the absolute rock bottom to buy, and similarly, you're not going to find the peak to sell. But it's just a natural. You're either going through a boom cycle in which you sell throughout the boom cycle, or you go down the downturn cycle in which you buy at the downturn cycle. Now, I think mathematically speaking, and this I pose this to you as a buyer here now, right? If you are looking to buy in Cherrybrook knowing full well it's corrected 15%, you know that sellers are happy to withdraw and lease their properties and wait it out. What makes you think they're going to sell when it drops another 5 to 10%? Buckley's, right? So I think, if I'm looking to buy in the suburb, now's a great opportunity to do so, because you are, when I'm talking point of equilibrium, majority of sellers out there have come to the realization, well, this is what the market is, this is the changeover, but we're not going to give it away, right? And, so simply put, that's what I'm noticing on the ground. So I'm just checking my notes here to make sure I don't miss anything. Yep, okay, so we spoke about that. So I think as far as what's my verdict and what do I see the property market in February, well, look, average days on market have increased to 70, okay, and this comes back, this is testament to people in no immediate position to sell, okay. There's homes out there that have been on for 250 plus days. Now, generally when you look at that, a 250 plus day, if the property's been that way in a boom market, you think to yourself, what's wrong with the home? But buyers are accepting of the fact that, all right, well, the home may very well be okay. The problem being the seller's not willing to accept the price we're willing to offer. Now, whether the offer is fair market price, whether it's trying to shop a bargain, whatever. But, when you've been on the market for that long, you are going to encourage the bargain shoppers. So, obviously those sellers can afford to hold off. Don't bother selling would be my advice, right? So it's not, and as a buyer, don't bother wasting your time, because you're dealing with someone or vendors there that aren't they want to stick to their price, and so be it. But that being said, it's a lose-lose. As a buyer, you'll waste your time. As a seller, you're wasting your time, right? And then the blame is obviously on the agent, because they're not doing their job, or they're not getting, and maybe to a degree it is, maybe they should be more honest with, if you've been promised a false figure. I don't know, that's another topic altogether. But look, I think at the end of the day, in a downturn market, as I said, people are accepting of average days on market, and again, as I said, it's testament to the market at the moment. The sellers aren't, so the market, where the market sits at the moment, the sellers aren't, they're not selling purely because of bank lending restrictions. And, in fairness, if that's what you're faced with as a purchaser, that's what you're faced with. But sellers aren't selling. Right, they don't need to. It's an established suburb. Primarily, majority of the residents here in Cherrybrook came about in the 80s. There's no mortgage stress. There's no pressure. And this is generally speaking. There are bargains to be found. That there are people that need to sell for whatever reason. But as a whole, this is where it's at its point of equilibrium. As I touched on as well, the rental market is still strong, and I touched on that in the January update. And that seems to be carrying the suburb through. And I think, as I said in January's report, I think it'll be very interesting to what happens towards the end of the year. But I think all in all, it's at its point of equilibrium. I know I've repeated myself many times, but I'm just summarizing what I've said. That's where I see the Cherrybrook property market at the moment. Nobody's in any immediate urgency to sell. Nobody's in any immediate urgency to buy, and it's just holding, right? It's holding. But I think as a buyer, this is where you obviously have yourself a good opportunity to buy in. Will you have a better opportunity to buy in later? Perhaps. Could go the other way as well, exactly as it did in the boom market, where sellers were thinking, should I sell now? Should I sell later? Well, it's gone the other way inevitably. So I think just looking at the math and looking at it statistically, if it's dropped 15% already, and it's hit a point where people have come to realization with, hey, that's what the market is, I will accept. As I said, the median amongst those sales was sitting about 1.425. A lot of sellers have come to the realization that, hey, that's very well when my property may sit in this market, and they understand that I'm going to transact and it all comes down to changeover price, but they know full well that the probability of it dropping another 5 to 10% is highly unlikely, right? So I think, as a buyer, I mean, nobody's got a crystal ball, nobody knows what's going to happen, but something to probably be mindful of so you don't miss out on any good opportunity that may present itself. So that's pretty much it from me. That's the market update. If you have any further questions or any feedback you'd like to express, you can contact me on 0294810999 or contact me on info@lambrosrealty.com.au. Simply visit me at the office here at Appletree Shops. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that's helped. Bye for now.